That was my life, but I must have missed it. Every morning, a man walked his 4 dogs in the park. 3 of them always darted about, barking happily, tails wagging with delight. The 4th seemed happy enough, but would only ever run around in the same tight little circles, albeit covering quite a distance, staying close to the man as he walked. Day after day, the park keeper watched the dog's strange behaviour. After a while, the keeper plucked up the courage to ask the man why his dog was behaving so oddly. "Ah," the man replied, "she's a rescue dog. She was locked up for most of her life. That was the size of her cage." How often have you behaved like that dog, free, but constantly running around in the same tight little mental circles? Free to be happy, yet caged by the same dark, repetitive thoughts. Free to be at peace with yourself and the world, while remaining trapped and entangled by anxiety, stress, unhappiness, and exhaustion. Free as a dog in a cage. So much of life is needlessly marred by little tragedies such as these. Deep down, we all know that we are capable of living happy and fulfilling lives, and yet something always stops us from doing so. Just as life seems to be within our grasp, it slips through our fingers. Although such periods of distress seem to appear from nowhere, they actually arise from deeply buried psychological forces. Neuroscientists have begun to understand how these processes guide our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But more importantly, they have discovered why they occasionally go wrong and leave our lives as shadows of their true potential. These new discoveries also show why mindfulness is so effective at relieving distress. But crucially, they also open the door to subtly different methods that can be even more effective. Mindfulness has not been superseded. Rather, it can be expanded to include an extra dimension that transforms it. Our latest book, Deeper Mindfulness, harnesses these new developments. It will help you to step aside from your worries and give you the tools necessary to deal with anxiety, stress, unhappiness, exhaustion, and even depression. And when these unpleasant emotions evaporate, you will discover a calm space inside from which you can rebuild your life. We can help you to do this because we and our colleagues at Oxford University and other institutions around the world have spent many years developing treatments for anxiety, stress, depression, and exhaustion. We co-developed mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, or MBCT, which has been clinically proven to be one of the most effective treatments for depression so far developed. Out of this work arose our book, Mindfulness: Finding Peace in a Frantic World. That book, and the mindfulness program within it, has been proven in clinical trials at Cambridge University and elsewhere to be a highly effective treatment for anxiety, stress, and depression. So much so that it is prescribed by doctors and psychiatrists around the world to help people cope with a wide range of mental health conditions, as well as generalised unhappiness and dissatisfaction with life. But the practices revealed in mindfulness and similar skills taught on courses such as mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, are only the first steps on a longer and more fruitful road. Although they form the foundations for a happier and more fulfilling life, and have proven transformative for many, a lot of people have asked us whether there's anything more they could do to enhance their practice and resolve their remaining issues. The answer is yes. There is a way of taking mindfulness to the next level, of going deeper, and unleashing more of your potential by exploring another frontier of mindfulness known as Vedana, or feeling tone. And, importantly, you don't need to have extensive meditation experience to benefit from these practices. Research is showing that novice meditators can gain just as much from them as those who have practiced for many years. Although it is an often overlooked aspect of meditation, feeling tone is, in fact, one of the 4 original foundations of mindfulness. These are mindfulness of the body and breath, mindfulness of feelings and sensations, or Vedana, mindfulness of the mind, or consciousness, and mindfulness of the ever-changing nature of the world and what helps and hinders your journey through it. Each aspect is cultivated using a different set of practices that, together, bring about profoundly different effects on mind and body. Mindfulness courses generally focus on the first layer of each of these 4 foundations. Our new book, Deeper Mindfulness, uses new meditations on feeling tone as a gateway into the deeper layers of the same 4 aspects of mindfulness. These take you closer to the source of your spirit, closer to any difficulties you may be having, nearer still to their resolution. There is no satisfactory translation of the ancient Sanskrit word Vedana. It's a quality of awareness that can only be experienced, not pinned down with precision. It is the feeling, almost a background colour, that tinges our experience of the world, of mindfulness itself. For this reason, Vedana is often translated as feeling tone. Although we will use both terms interchangeably throughout our book, it will always pay to remember that we are referring to a flavour of awareness, and not a rigid concept that can be hedged in by words and definitions. Feeling tone is something that you feel in your mind, body, and spirit, but its true quality will always remain slightly ineffable, sometimes annoyingly so. A typical feeling tone meditation consists of stilling the mind with a simple breath or body meditation, and then paying attention to your experiences in a manner that is subtly different to what other meditations request. It asks you to focus in a very specific way on the feelings and sensations that arise in the moment when the unconscious mind crystallizes into the conscious one. Such moments, though fleeting, are often the most important ones in your life. This is because Vedana is the balance point in your mind that sets the tone for the sequence of thoughts, feelings, and emotions that follow. It is subtle, but if you can pay attention to it, you can feel it in your mind, body, and spirit, right through to your bones. The feeling tone is of profound importance because it guides the trajectory of your subsequent thoughts, feelings, and emotions. If it is pleasant, you will tend to feel positive, dynamic, and in control of your life, at least for a while. If it is unpleasant, you will likely feel slightly gloomy, deflated, and powerless. Feeling tone meditations teach you to see, or more precisely to feel, the way that your life is pushed and pulled around by forces you are barely conscious of. Sometimes these forces act in your best interest, sometimes not. But the important thing is that they are not under your immediate control. Under their influence, your life is not your own. To help these ideas settle into your mind, you might like to try this little practice to get a sense of your feeling tones. If it's convenient, take a few moments to look around you. The room, the window, the interior of your train or bus, or perhaps the street or field or forest before you. As your eyes alight on different things, or different sounds come to your ears, see if you can register the subtle sense of whether each one feels pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. If you're at home, your eye might alight on a card, a gift, or memento from a much-loved friend. You might find the instant warm glow of a pleasant feeling tone in response. Or you might see a dirty dish that you've been meaning to tidy away, or something you've borrowed from someone and had intended to return. Then you might notice an unpleasant feeling tone. If you're outside, you may notice the sun streaming through the leaves of a tree, or a piece of dirty plastic rubbish flapping around. If you can catch the moment, you might sense ripples of pleasant or unpleasant feeling tones. But it's not just the external world that has such an impact. You may also become aware of sensations inside your body, such as aches and pains, or perhaps a sense of relaxed calm. These, too, register on the same dimension of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And sooner or later, you may notice thoughts or emotions arising and passing away soon after the feeling tones. You don't need to know how you know these feeling tones. You just know. Somehow there is a readout in body and mind on the dimension of pleasant to unpleasant. It's like a gut feeling. It's not a matter of thinking hard about it or hunting for it. It's more like the taste of something. You just know it when you taste it. Like tasting milk that's gone sour. You know it's unpleasant without having to think about it. Feeling tones can be hugely significant. Cast your mind back to the last time you were sitting in a cafe and suddenly felt unhappy for no apparent reason. If you could rewind the clock and observe what was happening, frame by frame, as your unhappiness arose, you would have noticed that the emotion was preceded by a momentary pause. It was as if your mind was poised on the knife edge, a moment when it was sensing whether the evolving situation was pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. A moment of Vedana. So Vedana is often a tipping point in your mind that affects how you experience the world in the moments that follow. Good, bad, indifferent. But it's what happens next that is of paramount importance. We call it the reactivity pulse. It works like this. If a pleasant feeling tone arises in the mind, then it's entirely natural to want to grasp it, keep hold of it, and be a little fearful that it will fade away or slip through your fingers. If the tone is unpleasant, then it's natural to want to get rid of it, to push it away, fearing that it will stick around forever and never leave. Neutral sensations often feel boring, so you feel like tuning out and finding something more interesting to do. These feeling tones are primal and can quickly trigger a cascade of reactions in the mind and body. These are felt as emotions and cravings that compel you to try to keep hold of pleasant feeling tones, push away unpleasant ones, and distract yourself from neutral ones. So the reactivity pulse is the mind's knee-jerk reaction to the feeling tone. If a feeling tone sets the scene, then the reactivity pulse casts the actors, selects the costumes, and writes the script for what happens next. And it can write a script and direct a scene that can easily ruin your whole day, and sometimes far, far longer. Virtually all of the emotional difficulties that many of us experience begin with the mind's reaction to our feeling tones, our reactivity pulses. But it's not even the pulse itself that is a problem, but our ignorance of its existence and underlying nature. We are often not aware that it has occurred, oblivious of the feeling tone that triggered it, and unaware of its tendency to fade away all by itself, if only we would allow it to do so. All we are aware of is the cascade of thoughts, feelings, and emotions that follow in its wake. Learning to sense the feeling tone, bringing it into the light, teaches you to recognize your underlying state of mind, and helps you make allowances for your sensitivities and entirely natural biases and reactions. It gives you the space to respond rather than react. It helps you to compassionately accept that although you might be anxious, stressed, angry, or depressed in this moment, this is not the totality of your life, with only one depressing future ahead of you. You can change course. Alternative futures are available to you. And tapping into an alternative future is as simple as sensing the underlying flow of feeling tones, noticing the reactivity pulses, realizing that the craving for things to be different is the problem. Craving an end to unpleasantness, craving for pleasantness to remain, craving an end to boredom. This idea is common to many ancient traditions, and now neuroscience agrees. You can learn more about these ideas by reading our book, Deeper Mindfulness, The New Way to Rediscover Calm in a Chaotic World. And that's written by me, Dr. Danny Penman, and co-written by Oxford University's Professor Mark Williams. And Mark co-developed mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which numerous clinical trials have now shown to be at least as good as medicine or counselling for the relief of the worst forms of anxiety, stress, and depression. And we co-wrote Mindfulness, Finding Peace in a Frantic World,